Welcome back, everyone. My name is Lauren Stamper. I'm a Go Diaper Free coach. And today I'm going to talk about nighttime pottying or nighttime EC. So EC, if you're unfamiliar with what it is elimination communication, or in other words, a way to respond to your baby's hygiene needs to help them pee and poop in a potty or just away from themselves instead of in their diaper. So this can be done full-time or part-time, and it can be done with or without diapers. So here's a question for you. Have you ever woken up in the morning and not needed to pee? So most of us have to go first thing in the morning. And if you're like me, pregnant, you might wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom as well. So babies are no different. They might be tiny, but they're not incontinent, and they're certainly not clueless. They have the same hormones, just like we do, at all different levels. Each human being has this hormone called the antidiuretic hormone. I don't have a medical background, so maybe I'm saying this the wrong way, but essentially what it is it helps us from peeing ourselves when we sleep, right? And so even babies have this, and you might be wondering, well, why do they wake up with a wet diaper? It's because they pee during sleep cycles. Okay, so we pee when we're awake, not when we're sleeping. And there's studies that actually show this. At nighttime, they will start like wriggling just before they pee in their diaper. When your baby is in the middle of sleep and then suddenly starts to like wriggle and wake up a little bit, that's when that hormone is wearing off, their bladder fills, and then they need to pee. So what you do during nighttime is you listen for those like wakeful signs. If your baby's not sleeping in the same room as you, you have like a baby monitor. And so you're sleeping, and then you're starting to wake up to their signs of waking, and then you're like, okay, I have the choice now. I can go in. You're gonna offer a diaper change anyway. The diaper's gonna be off anyway. You could offer the potty during this time. But essentially, that's the gist of nighttime EC and kind of how it relates to our own like basic biology. This is called the top hat potty. So it's all about convenience and minimizing messes, especially when you're half asleep. Basically, it goes right in between your thighs, just like that. And you're either like, you're feeding your baby, you're bottle feeding, or you're nursing. You can potty at the same time that you're nursing. You can potty when your baby wakes up, hold them in the classic EC position, or you can nurse first and then potty. Find out what works for you. Every baby's different. Every parent does it differently if they do nighttime EC. You can stay in your bed too, especially like if your baby's really close to you in your room. You don't even have to like move anywhere. You can just put this on your lap. You don't have to like go to the bathroom or anything unless your baby prefers the bathroom. In Andrea Olson's Go Diaper Free book, she has an awesome in-depth chapter on nighttime, but she says only do nighttime EC if it gets you and your family more sleep. If it's adding to sleeplessness, just skip it. So far, for myself and my family, we have chosen with both of our boys to opt out of nighttime EC. So that is the beauty of part-time EC. You choose when you do it and when you don't practice it. We started EC with our firstborn when he was 12 months old. And with our second, we started at birth. In the postpartum phase with my second son, I decided I valued sleep over pottying, and I think pottying would have gotten me less sleep. It might be different with our next, but I did start a dream pee with our second, I think around 1.5 or 2 years old, and I'll cover that later. But for this video, I will share Andrea's experience with a few of her children. So Andrea does have a nighttime EC 101 course she created. So if you're new to all this, I'd recommend getting the Go Diaper Free book first if you don't have it, and then get the course if you think that nighttime EC is for you and you want to go more in depth in it. So the mini course is designed like a private consultation feel in your living room. It also includes bonus videos where her newborn wakes up and she's narrating what she's doing as she's going through the process. So you can really get a good visual of what it looks like. Andrea's perspective is a pretty balanced one, especially over the course of her children. So her philosophy and her experience with nighttime EC have really evolved over time through like trial and error. She's very clear up front that nighttime EC is optional. It will not ruin your daytime EC progress. You can have incredible success with daytime EC even if you choose to skip it at night. So that alone, I think, takes a huge weight off parents' shoulders. But even if you are interested in trying nighttime EC, things can get a little bit tricky between the 4 to 6 month mark. So just be prepared for that. So around 4 to 6 months, a lot of babies start resisting nighttime EC. And it seems to coincide with other transitions too, like moving to the crib or sleep training or sleep coaching. So just a lot of change happening at once. So, kind of makes you wonder, could focusing too much on nighttime EC actually hinder your baby sleeping through the night? So if a parent's goal is to get their baby sleeping through the night, are they working against each other? It's a good question. And Andrea actually addresses that. She suggests that nighttime EC beyond 3 months could actually be counterproductive if your main priority is solid sleep by 6 months. So instead, she recommends focusing on a consistent bedtime potty routine. So, just getting them used to the idea, even if they're not fully aware of it yet. So instead of trying to catch every pee, you're creating a predictable pattern they can start to internalize, like building that foundation. But what if you're totally fine with those nighttime wake-ups? After all, like maybe you're already up nursing the baby anyway. In those cases, nighttime EC can totally continue, but Andrea cautions that you should be prepared for those phases of resistance, especially around that 4 to 6 month mark. Flexibility and adaptability are key no matter your approach. All right, so let's talk about some of the challenges that Andrea faced as she navigated nighttime EC with her 3 kids. So with her first child, she went all in on nighttime EC, responding to every little peep. She achieved success eventually, but at the cost of frequent sleep disruptions for 2 years. So that's commitment. But she learned a lot from that experience, which she applied differently with her other kids. So with her second child, she actually shifted her focus to a more of a sleep training approach, not cry it out, and limited nighttime EC after 4 months. And her daughter was sleeping through the night by 6 months. So 2 drastically different approaches and different outcomes. And with her third child, she found sort of a middle ground. It was more of a hybrid approach, nighttime EC until 4 months, and then using a pacifier strategically to help him settle back to sleep if he woke up. Now let's talk about what specific strategies she found helpful in making nighttime EC smoother. So she really stresses the importance of creating a calming sleep environment. Dim lights, white noise, anything to make those quick potty breaks less disruptive and help babies fall asleep easily. You don't want to be turning on the bright lights and having a whole conversation every time they wake up. It's about reinforcing that idea that it's still sleep time. She also recommends easy to access sleepwear, like maybe gowns or anything that opens up from the bottom. So that way you're not fumbling around with snaps and zippers in the middle of the night. Those little things can make such a difference, especially when you're half asleep yourself. Okay, but what about knowing when to go in? You can use a simple audio monitor to listen for those early signs of wakefulness. You don't need anything fancy with video, just something to let you know when your little one is stirring. So you're listening for like those telltale grunts and wriggles. You're trying to decode their sleep language. And here's another trick. This is called the pause technique. This is something that Andrea practiced. So it comes from the French parenting approach from the book Bringing Up Bébé. And it's basically the idea of waiting 5 minutes after those initial stirrings to see if your baby will self-soothe before you intervene. So it lets them practice those self-soothing skills and potentially even falling back asleep without needing to be pottied. So it's all about finding that balance between responding to their needs and giving them the space to develop their own sleep patterns. But speaking of self-soothing and sleep, let's talk about those naked nights that some EC parents might talk about. Should you let your baby sleep naked? Andrea has some reservations about that. So while it might seem like the ultimate diaper-free experience, she warns that unless your baby is consistently dry, sleeping naked can actually teach them to wet the bed. It's like they don't get that feedback that wetness is something that we want to avoid. So even though they're technically diaper free, it could actually create a habit that's harder to break later on. That's her concern. She suggests alternatives like training pants, which offer a compromise. They're not as bulky as a diaper, but they still provide some protection. So she actually sells these training pants called Tiny Trainers, which I absolutely love. I have a ton of them. You can get them at our store, tinyundies.com, and you can get $5 off by using the coupon code Stamper, my last name, at checkout. I'm sure some parents might be still wondering, what about diapers at night? Does that totally sabotage EC? I think a lot of parents have this fear, right? So that it's like somehow you feel like you're cheating if you're putting on a diaper at night. But please rest assured, it's okay. Diapers do not ruin EC. They're used as a tool, like a backup. It's not about creating a dependency on diapers, but rather recognizing that they can be a tool to help support healthy sleep for everyone. So you also do really want to understand your baby's signals, especially at night. So she talks about how with her third child, she started to pay attention to the subtle differences in his sounds and movements. So not all nighttime wake-ups are created equal. There's like a settling sound versus an I need to pee sound. So sometimes those initial stirrings were just her baby, her third child, readjusting or connecting sleep cycles. And he'd settle back to sleep on his own just like adults do. But other times his sounds would become more insistent. And she also really emphasizes that it takes time. In practice, you have to tune into your baby's individual patterns and just develop that kind of intuitive sense of what each sound or movement might mean. So it's not something you're going to master overnight, but with patience and observation, you'll start to recognize those subtle signals. So, sometimes that also might mean responding with a diaper change instead of a potty break. So I wanted to also briefly mention the dream pee. So I recommend not doing the dream pee between 0 and 12 months old. I think the Good Diaper Free book says around 15 months. So basically what you do is you put your child to bed at their normal time. So you don't change anything about their bedtimes or anything. You can add a final pee before they go to bed, just establish that like healthy nighttime routine, and over time they'll start to get it. But then when you go to bed, so for my husband and myself, it's usually between 10 and 11 p.m. One of us will go in and we pick up our child and we bring them to the potty. So this can be a potty in their room. For a while we were doing the seat reducer on the toilet. Your child during this time is in a deep sleep because they just fell asleep like 2 hours ago. And we want to keep the lights dim because we still want them to essentially think it's time to sleep, but we're just like rousing them up enough only to pee and then go right back to sleep. And what we did to support that kind of environment is that we kept the lights really dim, and then we would, because he'd be like really sleepy, we would be supporting him a little bit as he's like, on the potty. It would be very brief, right? So he'd be sitting there kind of like half asleep and we'd be like, potty, go potty. Once your child is done peeing, then you just like pull their pants up or just kind of get them back dressed. We were nervous at first whether this would like totally wake them up, but it never has woken them up completely. That's ultimately the dream pee and an option you can do with your toddler and up. Okay, so that is all the information that I have with nighttime. There's also additional links from the Good Diaper Free YouTube channel as well, where Andrea answers a couple different questions about nighttime. So all those links are below, but essentially this is just like an overview of nighttime EC. Thank you for watching and follow along for the next episode.